Welcome to another episode of Tarot Tarot here on Morgue TV. My name is Laura Hokstad. I am a tarot card reader and an intern here at Morgue. And on this series, we look at the use of tarot cards in horror films. On today's episode, we're going to be looking at a film that follows a young woman who's a bit of a social outcast, whose mother has recently died, and she kind of finds herself in this world of witchcraft. And she uses glamour spells to defeat her enemies and also cast love spells on people that she's interested in. And I know exactly what you're thinking. We are about to talk about the quintessential witchcraft for beginners movie, 2006's Tamara.
Tamara was the girl that didn't quite fit in.
Anyone bothers you, I want you to come to me, okay?
Think this magic's gonna make you feel better?
Wait, no, that isn't the right one. No, sorry. The one I wanted to talk about was this movie that follows a young woman who's a bit of a social outcast, and she's recently lost her mother, and she kind of falls down this world of witchcraft, and she uses glamour spells to defeat her enemies, and she casts a love spell on this person that she likes. Yeah, I think that's the one we'll talk about. We'll talk about 1996's quintessential witchcraft movie, The Craft.
The Craft.
Girls, watch out for those weirdos.
We are the weirdos, mister.
So I know what you're thinking. It's not really a fair comparison to talk about such a cult classic film like The Craft that's really beloved by so many 90s kids and seen as this kind of intro to witchcraft for so many young people. To compare that against this 2006 box office flop Tamara that maybe not a lot of people have heard about, it really isn't fair when we think about The Craft having merch and tote bags and stickers and, catchy phrases, and you could get t-shirts at Hot Topic. And then when we look at Tamara, we see a 38% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. But hear me out, because here on Tarot Tarot, we don't judge films based on their creative worth or their integrity. No. We judge them based on their use of tarot cards. So I thought it would be a fun exercise today to look at how both of these films that have very suspiciously similar plots use tarot in their opening sequences and how that might foreshadow or tell us something about the film that we're about to watch. So let's start by talking about 1996's film, The Craft. So the opening sequence of the film shows the three witches, Nancy, Rochelle, and Bonnie, going through this kind of ritual at their altar. And what we see intercut between them casting these spells and chanting these rituals is different artifacts of the occult as well as witchcraft.
Ours is the power.
There is also a kind of blink and you'll miss it shot of a tarot card. And that tarot card is the Hierophant, specifically the Hierophant in the Thoth deck, which was created by Aleister Crowley, a famed occultist. And I think this is definitely a choice by the filmmakers, just knowing that during the filming of this, they had hired a Wiccan practitioner to kind of consult on all of their rituals and the different ways in which they were conducting magic in the film. So I do believe that this was very much on purpose. This deck specifically, to some tarot readers, is seen as very much an advanced deck. So not something that a novice tarot reader could really pick up and kind of start to work with. The card itself is the Hierophant. And this card is kind of the ultimate teacher. So I find that interesting as well, that we're kind of seeing this flashing at the beginning of the film before we even know Sarah and her journey. Because what happens is we see her kind of lost. She's at a new school. She doesn't have any friends. She befriends these young girls, and Nancy especially is kind of becomes her mentor in a sense for magic. But she really does lead her down a dark path, and things kind of go wrong very quickly. So we see that that kind of teacher, that mentor that Sarah was searching for, didn't really work out in the best way for her. So she goes searching again. She finds Lero, the owner of the magic shop in the film. And she kind of becomes this this mentor figure about halfway through the film when Sarah's really at a loss. She's feeling very targeted by the other witches and she needs help. So she goes to Lero, who kind of is a stand-in mother figure / mentor for her, and helps her out in that way.
You know how to use candles?
Yeah, you light the wick?
More than that. Red is for love. Black, actually... Why you don't read that? It explains it all.
Okay. But I truly believe the Hierophant as its full archetype for Sarah is her actual mother, because as you know, at the end of the film, it isn't until she channels her mother's spirit, her mother's energy, and connects with her mother that she is able to harness her full powers as a witch. So I think that seeing this kind of searching for this mentor figure throughout is really foreshadowed by this card. These themes of mentorship or motherhood are seen kind of throughout the film as well. Specifically at one point, still early on in the film, when Sarah's just getting to know the other witches, and we see them go out to the forest to conduct this ritual. So on the altar, we see a tarot card of the Empress. And with that, we also see some runes. And the specific rune stone that we see is the Perth stone, which has to do with elements of protection. Runes are another divination tool that can be traced as far back as 800 AD, definitely during the Viking Age, and specifically in the areas of like Denmark and Norway. And these stones are based on an ancient alphabet, but each of the carvings have a certain meaning. So I think it's very much on purpose that we would see the Empress card beside this Perth rune, because the rune, again, is about protection, kind of everything that we see, that we hope for when we think of an archetypal mother figure. And that's echoed in the Empress card as well. So the Empress Tarot card is all about that ultimate mother figure, that protector, that kind of guidance that we look for as we're growing up. So I think that echoes through the choice of tarot cards used in the film.
We were just wondering, do you still have any powers?
'Cause we don't.
Sorry. So if you ever want to just hang out and chant or call the coroners.
Maybe. Hold your breath until I call.
Now let's talk about 2005's Tamara, and centers around this character of Tamara, who is a bit of a social outcast. After her mother leaves, she really is feeling quite alone. So we see her turn to witchcraft to kind of feel like she has some power or control over her life. The opening sequence of Tamara shows her conducting a ritual, and intercut within this ritual are shots of occult imagery as well as witchcraft, but we also see some photos of her mother and also like toys that she had as a child. So I thought that was kind of interesting because we're seeing her kind of still holding on to these memories that she had when her mother was around, and then now looking for kind of her own power in witchcraft. The tarot cards that we see in the opening sequence are the Empress card, the Tower, the Four of Pentacles, and then later on we see something that looks like a Ram tarot card. Now, these cards that I'm using here to show this are not the ones that she uses in the film. I scoured trying to find these cards, and I actually think they are an ancient Italian tarot deck that isn't in print anymore. So this is kind of the closest I could find to those images. What I believe it's called is the Minciat Florentine. And this was an Italian card game that future tarot decks would have been based off of. In this opening sequence, we see these cards that are a bit familiar to us, the Empress, the Tower, the Four of Pentacles, but then we see this Ram card. From the outside, it kind of looks like a horned beast, a devil of some kind, but it is representative of the sign of Aries. So I think that her having that one prominently placed on her altar is almost like the kind of personality traits she wants to channel. The other cards that we see are this Empress card, and as we talked about for the craft, Empress is this ultimate mother figure. So very interesting that that should be her first card as well. The next one is the Tower card. And now this card is all about kind of that feeling of having the rug pulled out from under you. The card in typical tarot decks shows a tower being hit by lightning. You see people falling to their death. It's on fire. The water is raging. It's chaos. And I think this is a bit of foreshadowing as well for Tamara, because as we watch the film, there's this brutal prank that's played on her that ultimately results in her death, but then resurrection.
Please! Tamara! Stop!
The tower card is very much about having your foundation crumble to the ground, but then the positive spin to this is that now that it's all flat, you can rebuild it as you see fit. So I really think that's what Tamara does after she kind of uses her magic and her spells to come back to life to then get revenge on all of the people who bullied her. The last card that we see is the Four of Pentacles. And this card is represented by an image of a coin. So oftentimes this suit specifically is seen as having to do with matters of finance because it's literally a coin. But in this reading of it, I see this card as being more about the things that Tamara wants to protect. In typical tarot decks, we see the image of the card being somebody who is kind of hoarding their wealth and protecting it, that they've stepped away from society and they're kind of hiding off on their own. I see this as her needing that protective shell around herself because she is an outcast. She doesn't have any friends. And the moment that she does put herself out there, it results in her death. But then it also results in her getting some pretty sick revenge on the people who killed her. So in terms of which film used tarot in their opening sequence better, I would have to go with The Craft. And like I said, I know it's not a fair comparison, but I think in terms of all of the other points in the film that kind of harken back to, witchcraft, tarot imagery, we have the four witches representing the four elements. The four elements are present in tarot, the fact that we had that Empress card and the Hierophant. I really think that there was a lot of thoughtfulness that went into the research behind making this film as accurate as possible. So I definitely think that The Craft did that better. But I felt like it was a fun exercise to look at how these tarot cards that are just, again, in this quick opening scene, never referenced again in the film Tamara, how they kind of do end up foreshadowing some of the things that she has to go through. It was a fun exercise to kind of look at both films and how they incorporated tarot into this very quick opening sequence and how those cards end up foreshadowing future events.
Leave him alone! I'm afraid it's too late.
So that's another episode of Terror Tarot here on Morgue TV. I'm always interested to know what your thoughts are on the films that I choose, the cards, and how I interpret them. So please leave a comment below if you have any other thoughts, or if you have any ideas for future episodes. I'm always interested to hear that as well. Also, make sure that you like and subscribe to Morgue TV so you don't miss a video. And join me next time, and we'll see what's in the cards. Tell me which craft character I look like. So that's it for another episode of my stomach grumbling.
See, hungry.
Hungry.